2022. Man, has it been a year of both ups and downs. I mean, I've managed to grow this channel from the ground up back in March into what it is today. But at the same time, I was just learning about my own mental illness, for good and for worse, for the very first time in my entire life. And here's the thing though, all while these great and awful things were happening, there were games. I'm talking about games that helped redefine my taste in video games as a whole, and also games that helped me remember why I love certain game elements and game mechanics so much. Today, I want to talk to you about these amazing, amazing games, and maybe even help you discover the next game that you'll play in the upcoming years. Because yes, no matter if this is 22, that's a year, let's talk about my absolute favorite Nintendo Switch games that I've played in 2022. Pokemon Burnout was on the rise with me this year, after finally snapping and no longer enjoying the stale gameplay loop of Pokemon anymore. So it was great to see that Pokemon Legends Arceus shook up the formula for one of the first true times in the series. Being the first real attempt at a more open world, Legends Arceus has you exploring the Hisui region and interacting with the world of Pokemon in ways I can't believe haven't been done before. You get to just throw a Pokeball to catch wild Pokemon instead of boring battles, which you can still do, but the option of a wide range of ways to catch a Pokemon instead of the same stale format, it's good. It's a change of pace, and it's great. You can throw your own Pokemon out at any time to just, sit with them and have a nice little chit-chat and interact with them, or you can throw all your mons out in the area and have them talk to each other genuinely. They will just talk to each other and interact and react to each other. It's really cool, and it's just so much better of how the original games kind of just have you, you could throw your Pokemon out, you can just press A, they'll do one emote outside of going to the menu and just kind of looking at your Pokemon just standing still, looking at their animations and just being like, oh, you have an attack stat. That's cool. The Pokédex actually requires more effort from the player in order to fill out its pages. I feel like I'm actually investing into every single Pokemon in this game, even more so into those that I dedicate to having in my team. Shout out actually to Antichrist, the shiny Bidoof that I had and I gave to a loving member of my chat who helped me fill out the Pokedex. I really appreciate that, and hope you're still doing good, Antichrist. Hope this doesn't get taken out of context. A part of me wishes they did invest more into the trainer battles and actually improved on them, instead of honestly making them non-existent outside of this certain trio of, I guess, this game's technical evil team, and some side quest battles that are pretty challenging, but again, they're so few and far between that they're not really memorable to me. And honestly, the biggest reason I talk about this is it's similar to a dent on a car. Other people probably aren't going to notice it and they'll have a good time in your car regardless, but the entire time you're driving the car, no matter how good the car is driven or is on the road, it's still noticeable and you're killing yourself over it because you want your car to be perfect and dent-free. I want this one thing to be fixed, because outside of that, the game is honestly the perfect Pokemon experience for me. But goddammit, I wish they made the battles interesting. I don't know, might just be me. Overall, I can say that this game reminded me of why I love Pokemon, and so it's unfortunate to see Game Freak not learn enough from it when looking at Scarlet and Violet. Yes, the game technically looks prettier, and the new Pokemon are really cool, but mechanics-wise, it takes one step forward and 3 steps back. Also in the game development part of all the bugs that you can do in that game, because man, Pokemon Legends Arceus not only is a working game, it has never crashed on me, but it's just more fun to play for me, henceforth why it's on this list. To be honest, I never fully got into the first Mario plus Rabbids game, with its linear level design and weird restrictiveness in what my team could look like. That's why when Sparks of Hope came out, it immediately became what I wanted and more. In this game, I was actually able to decide my full team lineup, with each combination of characters changing the way I planned out my attack every time. I feel like I'm actually exploring a world to find secrets in this game. Even finding some secret areas I had to do multiple side quests for in order to get more sparks. This game's equivalent to the materia system in Final Fantasy VII. The sparks themselves make the possibilities of team builds even more wide, making it feel like every person's team is gonna look different and unique. despite the fact that some of them look a bit goofy and yucky at times. Why is this one on all fours? I don't get that. The combat itself was always fun to mess around with, even though multiple times it did feel like I was having a bit of a power trip due to some of the fights being a bit of a cakewalk, but then again, I didn't mess much with this game's customizable difficulty settings. These settings can be small things like how much HP your enemy has, or how much HP you can gain on your own, after a fight, after every level up, or none at all, to make this game as difficult or as easy as you want it to be. Combined with the sparks and the characters all being unique on their own, it makes this game feel like a ball of clay where, no matter how much you stretch and pull and shape it, you're gonna end up with a game that is completely your own experience based on your own preferences, and honestly, this game surprisingly is somehow shaping up to be the bar for what I want modern RPGs to be in the future. Is that weird? I don't know. The fact that the Rabbids are making improvements to RPGs that I've never seen before, I don't know whether to be happy about that or ashamed to every other company that the fact this thing had to show you guys how it's done. The story itself surprisingly hooked me with its premise of traveling through space, meeting wacky side characters, and saving sparks all to defeat the big bad, which is painfully obvious if you know what Mario characters are. The fact that the Rabbids' existence, like the fact that they are in the Mario world, the fact that that is never questioned, similar to those ghost people in the Paper Mario Thousand Year Door game, that's surprisingly nice. It felt like the game could instead focus more on whatever wacky antics ensued, and I really appreciated that. The fact that our Rabbid characters are fully voiced now is also just such an amazing touch, especially with Rabbid Mario, who might just be my new chaotic spirit animal. Suffice to say, I think Sparks of Hope is just perfect for those that just want a bit more creative freedom and overall fun in their next tactics game. Hell, RPG. It really is just the bar now for modern RPGs, and again, I don't know whether to feel happy about that or just disappointed. Let me know in the comments down below, but yes, this game is really good. I really like it. I love Kirby, if that wasn't obvious enough, so just try to imagine what I thought about Kirby and the Forgotten Land. I still can't believe that even though this is the first genuine Kirby 3D platformer, they've managed to do everything nearly so damn well. I love how Kirby simply moves in this game. His slide move directly followed by a tap jump put me in this rhythmic flow state that can only be described as addicting and incredibly satisfying. The game's music, whether it's cheery and bubbly or loud and extreme, is just superb. There isn't a moment in this game where I'm not humming along to each and every track. Kirby's copy abilities, while low in number, are really fun to mess around with. Especially Hammer with its unintended ability to get you out of bounds and do some really fun tricks. The bosses feel a bit like Monster Hunter as you're dodging and attacking these giant critters in a flow state that I've never had before in a Kirby game, especially in the later arena fights, which I'm not going to put footage of because spoilers! There's even secret tasks you need to do in every level that encourage you to replay with different copy abilities or look even harder for secret areas. Like the game even needs a reason for me to replay every level again and again. Not to mention the mouthful mode abilities that give Kirby the ability to wreck house with oversized traffic cones, vending machines, and even cars. It looks absurd, but it's executed surprisingly well. At the end of the day, Kirby and the Forgotten Land is just pure bliss to play. Plus, it was the first game that launched my channel into where it is today, and for that, I simply cannot thank it enough. Fun fact, the original mascot for KiRBiZOiD was Kirby's light bulb mouthful mode, so fun channel fact if you wanted to know a little bit more about me. There you go. A while back, I made a video talking about the first hours of a game that impacted me in a way that I've never felt before from a video game. And even though it's only number 2 on this list, it cannot be said enough just how much I love Everhood. Everhood is an indie game from 2021 that never really got the attention it deserved. Hence me playing it in 2022. It's a game similar to Undertale, even though it hurts to say that, where you explore this mysterious world full of goofy characters. In this game, it can range from country hick slime boys to sneezing vampires that just want to play a goddamn game of tennis. The battles in this game are extremely unique, as it is a rhythm bullet hell where you need to dodge attacks that are timed to each track uniquely made for every single fight. Speaking of which, the music in this game is just varied and amazing. It ranges from intense final fight tracks to some goofy ones that just guarantee the biggest smile on your face. The characters that these fights inhabit are lovable and varied, with some of the best writing I've ever seen to boot. These characters are super easy to get attached to, which is impressive considering one playthrough is around 6 hours. Hell, you can see my full playthrough of it on KiRBiZoiD if you want to see my full teary-eyed playthrough of this entire game. The story itself is like a roller coaster with insane moments, out-of-nowhere bumps and loops, all to the point where the ride starts to slow down, with you not wanting it to end. Suffice to say, even though it's not at the top of this list, Everhood will remain one of my favorite video games of all time, and if I'm honest, it is the easiest recommendation out of this list of games that I will ever make. Okie doke, folks, before we get to my favorite game of the year, I want to make some honorable mentions, just real fast. This year was just full of amazing games if it wasn't obvious enough, and it would hurt me physically if I never said anything about these next 4. We're going to be going through these rapid-fire style, so buckle up, people, or we're about to go on a wild ride. Okay, you guys ready? Okay. 3, 2, 1. If you want to experience or even re-experience some of the best games out of the 3D platformer era, I highly recommend the Spyro Reignited trilogy. These classics are lovingly recreated with amazing visuals, music, and voice work that give newer players the ability to play some of the greatest platformer games ever made in a bigger and better way. The only gripe I have is that it sometimes will remind you that it is a PS1 game in both design and difficulty. I love the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles ever since I was a baby in my crib. I've seen every version of the cartoon, I've bought toys out of the fucking wazoo during my childhood, and probably because of that I absolutely adored TMNT Shredder's Revenge. As an homage to the arcade classics before, Shredder's Revenge is a game flow diamond in the rough. Choose yourself a Turtle, Splinter, April, or even Casey Jones as you beat down the Foot Clan and other classic baddies in a beat 'em up with superb character references, controls, and one of my favorite soundtracks of the whole freaking year. From start to finish, this game was a blast, but I would personally wait for a discount due to the game's arcade mode essentially being all the game is, making it a very short but sweet taste of turtle power, baby. I've never touched a Metal Gear game before, but regardless of that, I still had an amazing time with Unmetal. With amazing gameplay reminiscent of the original NES Metal Gear, Unmetal tells the story of Jesse Fox, a prisoner that somehow escaped an evil complex, and is retelling the story to the US soldiers that found him. Due to this being a recollection of Jesse's memories, every now and then you are able to choose how the story unfolds, changing gameplay scenarios and making everyone's playthrough unique. It's full of secrets like ammo extensions, and you can even get experience points if you stealthily take down your foes. When you level up, you can gain new abilities like dealing more damage or becoming even more sneaky deaky. From my experience, the game goes from a very strong and hilarious start to an out-of-nowhere difficult and tedious ending, but this might be due to me not picking the right upgrades while also being new to stealth games, so I still highly recommend it to everybody who it seems like remotely interested. Like, this game's really fun. Finally, I just love Nintendo Warriors games, with most having amazing gameplay and killer music, making you want to keep mowing down thousands. If that was the same for you, then I highly recommend Fire Emblem Warriors 3 Hopes. While Fire Emblem will always look a bit daunting with its desire to be both a complex game of chess and a waifu visual novel, this game prioritizes the usual Warriors game flow goodness to make this game a blast to experience. The story was engaging and fun to watch unfold. There's a class system where essentially you can make any party member into whatever class you want, making the potential for both broken and hilarious team builds. The only thing hindering these possibilities are your resources, which you'll need to manage as the days go by, leading to the eventual big bad fight at the end of each chapter. The more tactful approach to this game was also a breath of fresh air. Somehow they made active hack and slash gameplay combine pausing, strategizing, and min-maxing in a way that doesn't suck, and that on its own is extremely impressive. It's an amazing take on the Warriors formula, and one I had a blast playing this year. Whew. Okay. Check out all those games. I'm sorry I couldn't talk about them fully with more time, but it's actually because this next game I have so much to talk about that I wanted to make sure I could save enough time while making sure my watch retention wasn't abysmally low. So without further ado, ladies and gamers, this is my favorite game of 2022. Fight to live. Live to fight. This mentality is a part of every Kavessian Agnian in the world of Ionios, aka the world of Xenoblade Chronicles 3. This game is all about war, death, hatred, questioning your place in the world, and if your destiny really is yours to control. And it is easily the best game I've played this year. With it being a Xenoblade game, it has the usual breathtaking story, full of twists and turns, and also the combat that, without context, looks like some of the most complicated nonsensical things you've ever seen. Not to mention the fact that in this game, you're trying to master the combat while also managing 6 party members all at once. It's actually because of that I was very hesitant to try this game out. I honestly have a problem with Xenoblade games where the mechanics become too much for me, and I either have to resort to the easy difficulties or just give up entirely. But with Xenoblade 3, I feel like I was able to master the mechanics and party management to the point where it became some of the most complicated yet satisfying moments of any video game that I've ever played. The main cast of 6 characters are all equally interesting and lovable, with you learning more about their past and the decisions that led them to ending up as this ragtag group of separate worlds. As the game goes on, you'll get to recruit extra allies, known as heroes. They can become a 7th party member, and while that's all well and good, the best part is that they teach you their classes. This game is similar to Fire Emblem Warriors 3 Hopes in the sense that everyone learns everyone else's class, meaning more combinations of playstyle goodness that, if you couldn't tell, I crave very dearly. I found that I always discovered everything I could before I even dared to make any story progress in Xenoblade 3. While it did make me at least 10 levels overpowered all the time, I still found many of the bosses in this game to still be a test of my team composition and party management, with me losing a fair amount of the time due to me not having everything working just right together. After I would take the time to fine-tune and experiment with my team comp, all leading to that triumphant victory, I'd get this sense of pride and accomplishment that I've never had from a game before. There's probably a lot more things about this game that I'm missing. I mean, I've barely talked about the story and all the beautiful cutscenes. I haven't talked about the visuals that, for the first time ever, made me want to stand still and just turn the camera to bask in all the beauty of Ionios. But I feel like that's the point. I want to passionately talk about everything and get lost in the game's world because everything Xenoblade 3 does is done with the most style and quality that I've ever seen in a video game, let alone an RPG. Henceforth, why Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is the best game I've played in 2022, heck, one of the best games I've played of all time. So these are the games that helped me throughout 2022. It does feel a bit sad, seeing that I have no clue how 2023 will turn out in terms of games, or hell, even myself, if we're gonna bring myself back into this conversation. I mean, I'm excited for the new Mario movie, the Kirby remake that's coming out in a month. I don't know if 2023 and the years forward will even come close to how precious this year was for me in terms of games. I just know that regardless of what happens, whether good or goddamn terrible, I hope to remember these games' impact on me and how they helped me back on my feet, ready to tackle what other bullshit life threw at me, because really, 2022 is this weird, heads tails scenario where it was one of the worst years I've ever had in my life personally, but somehow 2022 was also the year of some of the best games I've ever played in my life. I don't know how that can happen. It's insane. It's like the games that come out aren't even remotely related to the events of my life. Isn't that crazy, guys? I know. They helped me remember my love for video games in general, and hell, somehow relating this to KiRBiZOiD with it being almost a year old, why I wanted to do YouTube in the first place. To talk about and play games that meant this much to me. And this year kind of more or less helped me remember that, and if anything, it has strengthened it. Now that I have more experience, now that I have more knowledge of how to do this, more or less. And maybe 2023 will have a game that somehow blows these games out of the water. I'm not going to say that's impossible. It's not likely, but it's not impossible. What I do know, ladies and gamers that are watching this far, is that whatever happens, there's nowhere to go but up in 2023. Okay, take that back. Hopefully,